As the winter evening settles over Nuremberg, the city begins to glow. It is that time of year when everything feels just a little softer. Windows turn into small stages of light, music drifts gently through the streets, and familiar scents of spice and sweetness float in the cold air. Christmas is never only a date on the calendar. It is a season of rituals, memories, and small traditions repeated year after year. Candles, decorations, songs, and the simple act of being out together on a cold night all add up to this feeling that so many of us wait for. Christmas has deep roots in this part of Europe. Here, the idea of Advent, of quietly preparing for the celebration, still shapes the rhythm of the weeks before the holiday. Markets, lights, and music are not just decoration. They are ways of marking time, of turning ordinary streets into places where people pause, look up, and share a moment with strangers as well as with friends. It is a beautiful time to slow down, to step out of routine, and to let yourself be carried a little by the surrounding atmosphere. Tonight, we are traveling into that atmosphere together. We have come to Nuremberg, one of Germany's most traditional Christmas destinations, to wander through its markets and old town streets. Around us, the historic centre is wrapped in warm light. The stalls are already busy, and the air is full of roasted almonds, mulled wine, and gingerbread. The same squares that once hosted medieval traders now welcome visitors from all over the world, all searching for that mix of nostalgia and wonder that only Christmas seems to bring.
Souvenirladen.
Das ist meine Idee.
Before we go deeper into the streets, it is worth to talk about what we are really walking through at this time of year. Christmas is not only a date on the calendar, it is a whole season of rituals and memories. In many places, it begins quietly with the first candles of Advent, with music in churches and in homes, with boxes of decorations brought down from cupboards where they have been sleeping since last winter. Families repeat the same small gestures every year, from baking and songs to the way they decorate a tree. All these layers of memory are what give this season its particular feeling of warmth, even when the air is cold. Here, in the German-speaking world, Christmas has a very long story. Many of the things that people now think of as classic Christmas touches have roots in this part of Europe. The idea of a decorated tree, for example, became popular in Germany in the 16th century and then spread outward, carried by migration and royal fashions, until it became a symbol recognized almost everywhere.
Ich glaube, keiner von uns hat honestly eine gute Way to go.
When you see the lights and ornaments in the squares of Nuremberg, you are seeing a tradition that has taken several centuries to form its present shape. The Christmas markets belong to that same history. Their ancestors were the winter markets of the later Middle Ages, when people in cities like Vienna, Munich, and Frankfurt were allowed to trade food and supplies in December, so that households could stock up for the cold weeks ahead. Over time, these practical December markets changed. They moved closer to Christmas. They began to sell not only meat and grain, but also toys, sweets, and small gifts. And they slowly turned into the Advent markets that people recognize today. What began as a way to get ready for winter has become a way to get ready for a celebration.
Laura hat ein Stück vorgekommen, oder?
There is also a religious and cultural shift behind some of these customs. In the late 16th century, the reformer Martin Luther encouraged families to move the moment of giving presents from the day of St. Nicholas on 6 December to the evening of Christmas itself. He wanted the focus to be less on a saint and more on the birth of Christ, and in his home, it was the Christ child who brought the gifts. From that idea grew the figure of the Christkind that still appears in many parts of Germany and Austria today, especially at Christmas markets. Nuremberg has taken that tradition and made it into something very local and very visible. The Christmas market here, the Christkindlesmarkt, has roots that reach back to at least the first half of the 16th century, and there is written evidence of a Kindlesmarkt in the city from 1628. Since the 17th century, a special pre-Christmas market on the main square has been part of city life, which over the years has grown from a short fair into several weeks of stalls, music and light in the old town. Today, it spreads out from the Hauptmarkt in front of the Church of Our Lady into the neighbouring streets, and welcomes around 2 million visitors every year, making it one of the most famous Christmas markets in the country.
Wenn du willst, ich esse schon so laut.
Nächste bitte.
Ja, tu.
Nächster.
Okay.
Ja me lo tienen coordenado.
Nächste bitte. Mit Zwiebeln. So, 16 Euro bitte. Bissknacker.
Black Friday ist jetzt aber.
When you walk through Nuremberg at this time of year, you can feel how long people have been gathering in this square to prepare for Christmas. The setting is a medieval town centre, with the skyline of churches and the surrounding streets still following the old pattern, and the market sits in that frame, like a tradition that has grown naturally out of the place. It is not something that has been built in a car park for one season, then taken away. Nuremberg manages to feel both grand and intimate. There are the big set pieces, like the opening speech of the Christkind and the huge tree on the square. But there are also quiet corners where you hear only footsteps on cobbles and the clink of cups. There are stalls that sell mass-produced decorations, but there are also booths run by craftspeople and small charities where the conversation with the seller is as memorable as the object you buy.
Das war er, ja, er war es zweimal.
Ja, der kriegt keine Rückfrage mehr. Ich mach sie auf.
Hauptmarkt, Nuremberg's main square, and in Advent it becomes the stage for the Christkindlesmarkt, one of the most famous Christmas markets in the world. For a few weeks in winter, this becomes a temporary village inside the permanent city, with its own streets, its own smells, and its own soundtrack of voices and bells. The Christkindlesmarkt has been part of Nuremberg life for centuries. No one knows the exact year it began, but the first clear trace dates back to the early 17th century, to a small wooden box with an inscription from 1628 that mentions a Christkindlmarkt. From those early days it has grown into a major event, now drawing around 2 million visitors each season. Yet it still takes place in the same central square, framed by the same historic streets. The rhythm of the market follows the rhythm of Advent. It opens on the Friday before the first Sunday of Advent and runs until Christmas Eve.
So, dann haben wir 33. Viel Spaß.
During the day, it feels like a busy outdoor shopping street. From morning until evening, the wooden shutters are open, and people come to buy decorations, gifts, and food. After dark, the atmosphere changes. The lights on the stalls become warmer, the sound of church bells and choirs carries further, and the whole square begins to feel like a shared living room for the city. Every year, it all starts with a single voice on the opening evening. The Nuremberg Christkind, the angel-like figure who is the symbol of Christmas here, steps out onto the balcony of the Church of Our Lady and recites a traditional prologue. The text was written in 1948 for the first post-war market and has been updated over the years, but the message remains the same. She welcomes the crowd, invites both children and adults to leave their worries at the edge of the square, and describes the market below as a small city of wood and cloth that will soon disappear again, leaving only memories. Hearing those words echo over the Hauptmarkt is a special moment for many locals, something they remember from their own childhood.
Ja, ja. Ja.
Also am Dienstag fährt es nochmal rein. Und dann verschwindet er auch wieder. Dann ist er noch aufgehalten. Ja. Ich habe alles ausgezeichnet, auch weil ich
If we walk slowly into the middle of the market, you can see how carefully it is arranged. In the centre stands a wooden pavilion with an open nativity scene. Inside, figures tell the Christmas story under a simple straw roof, surrounded by the movement of the stalls. Around it radiate narrow aisles, each lined with booths that repeat like a pattern. Some streets are almost entirely devoted to decorations. Here you find hand-blown glass baubles, wooden nutcrackers, carved nativity figures, and the delicate gold foil angels that are a classic Nuremberg souvenir.
Eine Scheibe?
Other rows focus on the sweeter side of Christmas. Nuremberg is famous for its gingerbread, the Lebkuchen, that has been baked here for centuries using imported spices from long-distance trade routes. On the counters, you see round gingerbread cakes baked on thin wafers, covered in dark chocolate or sugar glaze. There are also big decorated hearts with messages, written in icing and hung from ribbons. Beside them sit trays of almond biscuits, fruit loaves and spiced biscuits like speculatius. You will also notice that many of the stalls are run by the same families year after year, and the decorations on the roofs and signs often reflect that continuity.
Okay. $65.80.
Ja, genau, da hinten diese mehrere Stücke.
Ja, das drehen sich um alles, ne?
Achso, nicht, aber plötzlich.
Those are really pretty.
Schokolade?
In der Vitrine.
Thank you.
Ich habe das auch noch schon gehört.
Then there are the food stalls that look after the savoury cravings. Small Nuremberg sausages are grilled over open flames, their smoke drifting along the aisles. These little Rostbratwurst have their own long story and are one of the essential tastes of this city. Many stalls serve them 3 in a roll with mustard, an easy snack to eat as you walk. Nearby, you find kettles of mulled wine, spiced and steaming. And for those who prefer something stronger, there is Fusangembo, a punch that is set alight as sugar caramelizes and drips into the wine. This is the Kinderweihnacht, the children's Christmas market. It has only been here since the late 1990s, yet it already feels as if it has always belonged to the Christmas season in Nuremberg. The city created it as a place where children and families could have their own corner of Christmas, right next to the historic Christkindlesmarkt, but with a different rhythm and scale, a miniature world just for them.
Mama, bleib da!
Komm, wir wollen noch die Eisenbahn anschauen, ja? Von hinter der Scheibe wollen wir noch.
Halt, und der läuft und der rauf.
Schön, oder?
Der Arm oder der
So, also gehen wir weiter, Julius. Komm, sonst verlieren wir die Gruppe.
On some afternoons, the Christkind herself appears here, the same figure who opened the big market on the main square. She arrives in her white and gold robes, with the tall crown and soft curls. And for a while, the whole crowd becomes very quiet. Children can talk to her, hand over their letters, and she often invites them for a free ride on the carousel or the little train. It is a simple gesture, but you can see in the faces of the families how much this moment means, especially for locals who grew up with the same tradition. Look at how everything is arranged. The huts are smaller and painted in bright colours, many of them decorated with moving figures, fairy tale scenes and friendly animals. In the centre there is a nostalgic carousel that could have come straight out of an old picture book, with carved horses and sleighs going around in circles on 2 levels. Besides it, a little Ferris wheel turns slowly against the winter sky. And a tiny steam train runs on its track with serious concentration, carrying children past lanterns and fir branches at just the right speed for them to take everything in. The food here also follows the theme. You can still find the classics of Nuremberg, small sausages in a roll and warm drinks, but many portions are sized and flavoured for younger visitors, with milder spices and sweet scents. Parents stand with a cup of punch in their hands while their children focus entirely on their cookie or on deciding which animal to choose for the next ride.
So. Da ist
Even if you are visiting without children, the Kinderweihnacht is worth a quiet lap. Nuremberg has a deep history as a toy-making city, a place where miniature worlds and painted figures have been crafted for centuries. When you walk through this market, you can feel that same spirit of play and imagination carried into the present. Wooden toys, simple games, and storybook scenes in the stalls connect very naturally to the city's own museums and traditions. We arrive at Jakobsplatz, framed by two churches, the Gothic St. Jacob on one side and the imposing dome of St. Elizabeth on the other. And in between them, the winter village spreads out under the Ferris wheel. In the daytime, this place already feels like a small winter resort dropped into the middle of the city, but in the evening it really comes to life. The cabins are built in a rustic chalet style, with wooden beams, warm light and thick garlands of fir. Strings of bulbs crisscross the square and reflect in the windows of the two churches. Above everything, the Ferris wheel turns slowly, its spokes lit by shifting colours that draw the eye from almost anywhere in the old town. This is the Nuremberg Winter Village, the youngest of the city's Christmas venues. It sits at Jakobsmarkt, just a few steps from the White Tower and the busy shopping streets, and offers a slightly different atmosphere from the historic Christkindlesmarkt. Here, the mood is more like an alpine winter evening, with a focus on cosy huts, music and a central meeting place for friends after work or for families at the weekend. The market is still quite new, but it has become popular very quickly, and in 2025 it is already in its third season. At the heart of it stands the Ferris wheel. It rises to about 38 meters above the square, and during Advent it is one of the most distinctive shapes in the Nuremberg skyline. From up there, you look out over the domes and towers of the city, across the lights of the shopping district, and towards the castle on its hill. The tourism board likes to point out that Nuremberg is the only city in Bavaria that sets up a Ferris wheel right in the historic centre at Christmas, and it has quickly become a symbol of the winter season here. Because it is late, the sky is now a deep blue-black and the colours of the wheel feel even stronger. Every few moments, the light pattern changes from gentle warm white to waves of red and blue that run along the rim. If you stand in the right place, you can frame the wheel between the classical facade of St. Elizabeth and the pointed tower of St. Jacob. It is a view that looks almost unreal, like a film set where an old European square and a fairground ride have been blended together. Down here at ground level, the winter village is built for lingering. Wooden bars serve glühwein, punch and local beer. Grills sizzle with Franconian sausages and other street food. Stalls sell sweets and snacks, from roasted nuts to crepes and waffles. In the middle, there is usually a heated hut, where people can step inside for a while if the wind on the square feels too sharp. The whole place is designed as a meeting point, somewhere to arrange to see friends or colleagues, and then decide together whether to have a quiet drink in a corner or take a ride on the wheel above. If you look closely at the Ferris wheel cabins, you will see that some of them gently turn, giving everyone on board a full view of the city as they rise and fall. In the evening, there is even a special light show that runs across the structure, a choreography of thousands of LEDs that wash the square in changing colours. From below, it feels like standing beneath a moving lantern. From above, for those in the cabins, the city opens like a map of lights, with the Christkindlesmarkt in the distance and the streets of the shopping quarter stretching out in straight lines.
Wenn Sie sich bitte einfach hier anspielen, also die neue Stange praktisch.
근데 너 다다오다 안 어울렸어.
Hier!
Ja, der kommt was?
Ja, das muss man, das ist halt. Wenn Sie sich bitte einfach hier anspielen, also die
Dialekt heute, das Geile wird jetzt ja ohne die Kappe.
Das stimmt.
From the winter village, we start to drift back towards the old town again. The big wheel slowly disappears behind the roofs and church towers, and the light becomes softer. Street lamps and shop windows guide us for a few minutes. Then, ahead of us, another glow appears, lower and warmer. We are coming back to the children's Christmas market at Hans-Sachs-Platz, the Kinderweihnacht, to see how it feels now. That night has fully arrived.
Ça va? Ja, du, was so.
Inzwischen habe ich auf diese Bemühungen eingesammelt.
So mit verleiht sich
Was die so alles wollen. Da sind zum Beispiel
The nostalgic two-tiered carousel that we saw earlier in the day looks even more magical now. Every level is picked out with small bulbs. The horses and sleighs rise and fall through bands of gold and white, and the painted panels on the top reflect the light back down. From a distance, you see only the glow and the slow spinning movement.
Du musst dein Kinder
Next to it, the mini Ferris wheel turns steadily against the dark sky. In daylight, it looks charming. At night, the cabins become tiny floating boxes of colour. Each time they rise, they pass through the branches of the decorated trees, and for a second you see layers of light behind one another. Bulbs on the wheel, stars on the garlands, windows of the houses on the far side of the square. The wheel itself is not tall compared to the one at the Winter Village, but from the point of view of a child, it must feel enormous. A private lookout over the whole Christmas city.
Yavaş babacığım. Gel.
The little steam railway has also changed character. In the afternoon, it was a bright toy train that happened to move. Now the track is edged with lamps, and the carriages carry their own soft light. As it circles the square, the train carves out a glowing ring at ground level. Passing under arches of fir and paper stars, from time to time, a small whistle sounds, just loud enough to cut through the music of the carousel and the general hum of the crowd. So as we slowly circle the Kinderweihnacht one more time, try to take it in as if you were walking here yourself after a long winter day. You hear the music of the carousel, the soft clatter of the train, the murmur of families talking in many languages. You smell sugar, cinnamon and roasted nuts. You feel the cool air on your cheeks and the warmth from the rides and huts on your hands. This is Hans Sachs Platz at night, a small glowing square in the middle of Nuremberg, where the wait for Christmas feels just a little shorter and a lot more magical. From the children's market, we wander back through the lanes, following the glow that rises above the rooftops. As we turn the last corner, the whole Hauptmarkt opens in front of us again. And now it looks completely different. Earlier, there was still a little daylight mixed into the scene. Now, the sky is a deep black, and the Christkindlesmarkt feels like a carpet of lights laid out at the feet of the Frauenkirche. The rows of red and white striped stalls are no longer just tents. They have become little lanterns, each one edged with strings of warm bulbs and branches of fir. From above, people say the market looks like a small city of wood and cloth. From down here, it feels like walking through the streets of that temporary city, with light spilling out from every counter and every window. The Church of Our Lady stands at the far end of the square, its Gothic facade gently lit, watching over the market like a stone guardian, while the crowd flows below. The air is thicker, now with scent. You can really smell Christmas here in the evening. Gingerbread, mulled wine and grilled sausage, all mixed together into one big cloud that hangs over the square. Every breath tastes a little of spice and smoke. The buzz of voices feels softer than in the daytime, as if the darkness has absorbed the sharp edges of the sound. You hear snatches of different languages, bits of laughter, and from somewhere near the church, the faint echo of music from the stage. After all this walking and filming, the smells finally win. We realize just how hungry we have become, so we follow our noses to one of the food stalls. The sign promises burgers with sauerkraut, a simple idea but perfect for a cold December evening. We order one each.
Sie auch vor allem, Entschuldigung, welche Sachen innen drin tragen. Außen?
Ja, aber meine Hände frieren gerade.
So.
Innen nicht. Innen bin ich warm eingepackt. Hände und Füße nur. Ein bisschen die Nase. Aber Sie können ja nicht mitfühlen.
Once we have finished our late snack, we move back into the middle of the square and turn towards the Frauenkirche again. From here, you really feel how big it is. In the daytime, the church blends into the outlines of the old town. At night, with the market lights in front of it, the facade rises like a dark cliff of stone and stained glass above the sea of roofs. As we wander a little away from the food stalls and the flow of people, the mood of the market becomes quieter. Right in front of the Frauenkirche, there is a simple wooden building with a straw roof and a bright star on top. This is the large nativity scene, the crib that many people call the heart of the Christkindlesmarkt. From quite a distance, you can see that star above the roofs of the stalls. When you come closer, you notice how many people pause here for a moment. Children pressed up against the wooden rail, adults standing just behind them, taking in the scene in a calmer silence than in the rest of the square. Just in front of the church there is a stage, and if you listen for a moment you can hear music drifting across the square. School choirs, trombone choirs, brass bands and local groups take turns to perform here during the Advent weeks, adding live music to the constant background sounds of the market. I think it is time we warm up a little. We have been walking for a while, and in a place like Nuremberg at Christmas, there is really only one obvious next step. So let us make our way over to one of the Glühwein stalls. So if you are watching this at home, maybe this is the moment to pause the video and pour yourself something warm too. It does not have to be wine, it can be tea, hot chocolate, whatever feels comforting where you are. Then come back, stand here with us, and let us share this small winter ritual together. To all of you watching, wherever you are in the world, cheers. From the Christkindlesmarkt, we eventually drift towards the edge of the old town, following the line of the city walls, as the stalls thin out and the crowd spreads into the wider streets. Another kind of scene appears ahead of us. Just beyond the Königster, opposite the main railway station, there is a small gate in the heavy sandstone wall. We step through it, and it feels a bit like walking into a secret courtyard. This is the Handwerkerhof, Nuremberg's craftsman's courtyard. It sits in the former Waffenhof, the old defensive yard of the Frauenkirche, tucked directly into the last ring of the city fortifications at the Königster entrance. From outside, you would never guess what is behind the wall. Inside, on a very small footprint, you find a whole miniature village, narrow cobbled lanes, tiny half-timbered houses, low roofs and signs swinging gently over shop doors. The Handwerkerhof was created in 1971 for a special occasion, the 500th anniversary of Albrecht Dürer's birth. At the time, it was meant to be a temporary attraction, a way to bring traditional crafts into the spotlight for 1 year. But visitors loved it, and the little crafts town stayed. Since then, it has become one of Nuremberg's most characteristic corners, a place where the city's identity as a centre of artisans and toy makers is still lived out every day. Walking in here after the bustle of the main market feels almost like changing scale. Everything is smaller and closer. On one side, there is a pewter workshop where shelves are lined with polished tankards and figures. Next door, a glass cutter works on a wheel, turning plain pieces of glass into patterned ones. A leather worker shapes belts and bags, a potter stacks mugs and bowls in soft colours. A goldsmith bends glowing wire under a lamp. In several shops, you see Nuremberg's long toy tradition in miniature, with wooden and tin toys that feel as if they have walked straight out of an old catalogue. At Christmas, the atmosphere here becomes even more intimate. The timber facades are dressed with fir branches and lights. Little stars hang between the roofs, and several of the shops focus even more on seasonal pieces, hand-cut ornaments, carved nativity figures, delicate glass baubles, and, of course, Lebkuchen from traditional Nuremberg gingerbread bakers.
Ah, okay. I had the best Mexican restaurant in all of Germany. Next door, here.
Thank you for walking here with us. We hope this slow walk has brought you a bit of calm, a bit of warmth, and maybe some inspiration for your own travels. If you enjoyed this video, it would really help us if you could give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It is a very simple gesture, but it makes a big difference and allows us to keep creating these documentary walks in other cities and villages. Wherever you are, we wish you a peaceful season, and we will see you in the next video.